It's just checking in today. I wanted to talk about Akame got killed, and I haven't binge watched anime like this in a while. But this anime had a lot of hype. I'm usually kind of a third-party anime viewer type of guy who will actually look for better animes that aren't super mainstream. It's kind of a hipster way about going about things, but mainstream stuff like Attack on Titan, I didn't really enjoy it, and there's some other mainstream shows I didn't enjoy. But there's some good mainstream stuff like Death Note and Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, Ghost in the Shell, stuff like that. But anyways, onto the Akame got Killed review. So the show takes place in a fictional imperial setting where you have a corrupt emperor being manipulated by a minister who wants the throne himself, and if you get the throne you get power, yada yada yada. You control the economy, people, etc., etc. The group we follow in the story is called Night Raid. Night Raid is a group of assassins who have seen the corruption within the empire. They all have their separate stories of how they found corruption, and now they join Night Raid as a form of retribution for their sins that they've done. And Tatsumi's your generic lead role. He comes in with little to no strength, becomes adored by his group, and fulfills this role of the main character. He's kind of a shonen main character. No, he is a shonen main character, because he even gets the S-pull at the end. So as time went on, we meet other characters such as Death and her group, the Jaegers, or probably just Jaegers. And from what I got from the show is that this show tries to get you attached with all these characters, but rarely succeeds. Sure, everybody has a depressing story except Bluebach, who just followed an agenda because of love. But then again, he's just your generic friend, like, oh, let's have sex with pretty girls. He's kind of fulfilling that anime cliche that you need to have this character that's going to push your emotional, or not even emotional, just physical, quote-unquote, guy side that people think that guys need to have. Now, there are some members of Night Raid who think by taking down the Empire will serve as a form of retribution to the committed sins. And I think people fail to realize that morally killing is still killing. Even if it's killing corrupt, you're still killing people. I'm not giving them the fair trial that they deserve. Sure, they're going to end up in jail and they could come back. But if they really wanted to go about bringing peace and justice, that probably would have been the ideal way to go about it. However, I'm thinking about it in a real world perspective where everybody is held on trial to a fair crime and have fair punishment. But this, like I said, takes place in a fictional imperial setting back in what looks like to be the 1700s. But another thing the show did well was how they handled the Jaegers and Death. Night Raid and the Jaegers had what felt like an equal distribution of character development between them. And Night Raid, each character had roughly a sixth of an episode explaining their past, explaining their past, and why they're doing what they're doing. Personally, I felt more connected with characters like Tatsumi, Wave, and Kurame. I wish Kurame had more development, but she seemed pretty straightforward. She didn't have that deep of a past. It's just like Kurame and Akame. Oh, we were sisters and we helped each other. Then we got separated, and then Akame got a mind, and she saw that they weren't actually sharing justice, but they were spreading pain and suffering. Or Kurame thought that was the right way to go about it, because she obviously became much more successful in her job, etc., etc., etc. But the thing about Tatsumi and Wave is I felt like they were the same characters. They both came from a small town. They wanted to help their small town, and they thought that doing something for the capital and getting money would be the good way about going about it. But Tatsumi and Wave both have this innocence about them, because if you look at the show, the entire show, Wave doesn't want to openly kill people, but the thing about him is that he preserves this innocence even when he's part of Death's group, the Jaegers. And that's something I really liked about it. He did, and I can't remember his name, but the guy with the angel wings, wish I could, but I guess he just wasn't memorable, especially because he had like 3 episodes that he was important out of 24 episodes. However, both the characters, like I said earlier, were pretty much the same. They both wanted to pursue justice by walking their own paths and forging their own paths of their ways of retribution, justice, and helping people. So at a point in this show, when battles occur episode to episode and characters are dying left and right, as a viewer, you become scared to get attached, because towards the end, you realize there is no main character armor. Everybody is ready to die. Everybody has the potential to die. And you just get this feeling like, oh my gosh, should I get attached? and just losing people left and right, you don't get this feeling of sadness, because as soon as you get over somebody, then they say something funny and everything's better. In a real life standpoint, you don't just get over somebody like that, and he pretty much did, and by he I mean Tatsumi and the group. So another thing about it was, I just hated how they went about that. It's just like, oh, let's make a joke here and there, everything's good, that's closure on the death. I think it goes to show how much they actually cared about people in Night Raid, but then you could also make the argument, well, hey, they're a group of assassins, this is going to happen, and it is what it is. So instead of dissecting each character and whether I like them or not, I thought that they could have used more development. I felt like it was so brief outside of Tatsumi. The only person, literally the only person that had little to more development than everybody else. I'm not going to cover the romance between Tatsumi and mine, and as Death and Tatsumi. As Death and Tatsumi, it was love at first sight. Tatsumi and mine had this ambiguous foreshadowing from this religious priest guy. He was like, oh, you guys are gonna fall in love, and then it seems like they do, and then it's just like it just bothers everybody, because they spent they spent half an episode foreshadowing this, they spent one episode developing and nurturing the bond that they have, and they call it quote unquote love. I might be holding this show up to a standard that it can't get to, like White Album 2, which is a very good fleshed out love story. Like if they began the love story on maybe episode 3 or 4, and then they finally got to that kiss, then I would have been more satisfied than, that's me, you like, no, that's not how it works. So that whole love thing, I feel like that should not have been in the show. And finally, the fight scenes were very good. Each fight was different, music good, animation pretty solid. The fights were choreographed very well. None of them were too similar or too much the same, and I thought for what it was pretty good. Now, in conclusion, to wrap this show up, originally I disliked this show. Then I sat and thought about what it was. Anime viewers like myself hold anime on this pedestal that it must fulfill the requirements of good storytelling, character development, good action scenes, and good music and animation. Nevertheless, as viewers, many of us fail to appreciate shows for what they are. Because this show spent time on relationships and minimal character development, I thought it would have been a pretty coherent story, because, well, maybe I just thought that it could have been something better than it actually was. However, the plot wasn't too deep, but if you like it, not even if you like it, but if you look at it for what it is, it was a pretty good action series that could have been considered a shonen in the eyes of the anime viewers. So if you look at it with a shonen mentality, you might enjoy it, but if you look at it too seriously, then you are not going to enjoy this. Nevertheless, we cannot ignore the failures of this show. All in all, I'd give this show about a 6.5. With the hype the show had surrounding it, I think it hurt itself even more, because people are like, oh yeah, this show is amazing, go watch it, you're going to enjoy it. It's really good. Biggest problem is romance, subpar character development, and it seems like the show doesn't know what it wants to be. It goes between serious storytelling and serious character development, but then it's just like, hey, okay, well, now that you're attached, we're going to kill off the character, but you are scared to get attached because the characters die left and right. So those are my final thoughts on Akame Got Killed. Tell me what you guys thought about this review, whether you like this style of review, my opinion on the anime. And honestly, what did you guys think about it? You just checking out. Be sure to comment, subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more videos. Have a good one.